Students, I have been working out recently. Obviously, you can tell by my super buff figure. But because I have been working out, it has left me very sore. So while I'm up here today, if you see me like grunt or like grimace or like have T-Rex hands, no, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with me. It is just because I am sore. I've been working out. Even this morning, I was trying to put my socks on, and listen, like it just wasn't good. Like it was sad. It was like a 15-minute process trying to get my socks on, and there was like loud noises, and like, I was angry, I was sad, I cried, tears were shed. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing, but it was done. I got the socks on. I made it here today. It is all good. But a lot of people, as I maybe tell them about I'm working out, or maybe they're asking me, Jeremy, why does your face look like that? It doesn't normally look like that. I'm telling them, hey, it's because I've been working out and I am in pain right now. And sometimes people will ask me the question, maybe you've been asked this question before, or maybe you've asked someone else this question before, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you inflict that pain on yourself? And so what I've learned from me is that the reason I do that is because there's a purpose in that pain. There's a purpose in that pain for me to grow stronger. There's a purpose in that pain for me to grow stronger physically, mentally, for me to be healthier. There is a purpose in the pain. And so as I am working out, if you don't know what happens, I'm literally breaking and tearing the muscles in my body apart so that they would grow back stronger. So the reason I'm able to do that in spite of the pain is because I'm able to remind myself there's a purpose in it. I'm able to produce something stronger because of it. And there's a purpose in the pain. And the reality is that we all experience pain in our lives. We all experience difficult circumstances. We all experience hurt. We all experience things in our life that we wish we rather wouldn't. And a lot of times when we come to those situations, we ask ourselves that same questions. Why am I going through this? What is the purpose in this pain I am experiencing right now? The apostle James, the brother of Jesus, says it like this in James chapter 1, verse 2. He says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kind, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." And so what he is saying there is that as difficulty comes our way, as pain comes our way, as hardships are coming our way, that there is actually a purpose in it. That it is just like working out, growing something inside of us in the midst of the pain. We talked about it in the first week of this series, Counterfeit, when we looked at the man who built his life on the sand and the man who built his life on the good foundations. And what we said is storms are coming. Difficulty is coming. Hardship is coming. And we said, hey, the way it's going to go better for you is if you build your life the right way. But the other question we come around to is, what do I do when I'm in the midst of it? How do I respond? Why is this even happening? What the apostle James says is he tells us in the midst of it that we would count it joy. And it's not like this, like fake, like, hey, just be happy. You just spilt your Starbucks, your $8 Starbucks drink on your favorite clothes. Yippee, that's awesome. Like, it's not like this fake, hey, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, they just broke up with me. I'm really excited about it. Like, he's not saying it's supposed to be like fake. He's saying when you spill your favorite Starbucks drink on your favorite shirt, that maybe, just maybe, you're able to find some joy in it because there's a purpose in it. When your boyfriend or your girlfriend breaks up with you and it is difficult and you are heartbroken and it hurts, that you're actually able to find joy in it because there is a purpose behind it. Well, what I believe James is saying here is that God can produce something positive in your pain. God can produce something positive in your pain. Another way we're going to say it for today is that God can use the turning points in your life to grow your faith. God can use the turning points in your life to grow your faith. When I say turning point, I'm talking about as we navigate through life, we experience all kinds of difficulty, all kinds of change. You know, we talked about, we're in this series called Counterfeit, and we're evaluating what it looks like to follow Jesus in a real and authentic way. And I feel like we are never less real and never less authentic than when it comes to the difficult things in our lives and we choose to act like it's not actually happening. We just avoid it. We just put on a good face and say, hey, everything's good, everything's great, don't worry about me. And we're not actually real about what's actually going on in our lives. And not only is that not the most counterfeit we can be, it also doesn't let people know the real us because they don't know what's really going on with us. It doesn't let people care for you. It doesn't let people help you. You're just pretending. You're playing counterfeit. And when we come to these situations, these turning points, these difficult things, a lot of times we have different responses. Some people, they just put on the mask. They pretend everything's okay. They're like, hey, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to acknowledge it because if I don't talk about it, if I don't acknowledge it, maybe it's like it didn't even happen. It's not even there. If I don't have to do anything about it, then it doesn't really impact my life. And we just avoid it. We avoid conversations. We avoid dealing with it. We avoid the impact that it has in our life. The other way some people react to it is they do the complete opposite, right? Whenever something happens in their life, they pull out their megaphone and say, look what happened to me, right? They want everyone to know what's going on with them. They want everyone to know about their problem because they want to know that someone cares. And see what the Apostle James was saying is, hey, there's different ways you can react to this, but the way that you're going to get through it, the way that it's going to be meaningful is that you realize that there is purpose in it. And the reality is you've probably experienced some turning points in your life. I'm going to try to draw up here for you with my T-Rex arms, so we're going to see how this goes. But you've probably experienced some turning points in your life. You know, you're going on in your life and everything's going good, and then your family moves. And you start making some friends and things are going good, and then your dad loses his job. But things are starting to get better. You make some new friends and you have some positive change in your life. And maybe you get a boyfriend or a girlfriend and things are going great, and then they break up with you. But things are going good again, and it's like this situation that keeps going, and we have these moments, these turning points where things begin to change for us. We have these moments where difficulty comes our way, change comes our way, and how we respond to those moments can change everything for us. And what happens, we find ourselves in those moments and we're asking those questions, right? The why me questions, the what am I supposed to do question. And maybe something you've never realized before, but Jesus actually experienced turning point moments in his life as well. Jesus experienced some difficult, life-changing moments in his life as well. You see, Jesus had a fully human experience. He actually, for his age and time, had probably a normal childhood experience just like you guys. He probably grew up and he made friends and he lost friends. And he had great things happen and he had bad things happen. He experienced hurt. He experienced loss. He would have had a fully human experience just like you, and he would have been able to understand what you're going through. And we find ourselves in one of these stories in the Gospel of John today. So if we have Bibles in the seats, it's also going to be on the screen. We're going to be in John chapter 11, verse 1. It says, "Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sister sent to him, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. What we see happen here is Jesus is out doing his Jesus things. He's doing ministry. He's doing life with his disciples. And some of his closest friends send word to him that one of his close friends is on his deathbed. He is deathly ill. He is about to die. And they're saying, hey, you got to come fast. Like, I'm not sure how much longer he has. You got to come and see him. And what we see in this, maybe some of you have, I don't want to be trite about it, maybe some of you have experienced this before. You've lost grandparents or close friends, people who were impactful in your life, and you've experienced a moment like this. And for most of us in this room, when we experience those moments, our goal is to spend as much time with them as we can. Yet for some reason, Jesus does something very different. He waits. And he waits. And he waits. And he waits. And the text says that 4 days later, he arrives to the house and Lazarus was dead. Jesus is one of Jesus' closest friend, one of the few people we see interactions in the Bible where it actually says Jesus was a friend of his. And Jesus missed that moment. And maybe that's what it feels like for you. You feel like you're in one of those turning point moments. You feel like you're in one of those life-changing moments where everything's crazy. And maybe you've been like, God, do something, please. I need you to show up. I need you to do something. And it just feels like he's been waiting. And he's been waiting. And he's been waiting. And you're not sure if he is going to show up because it's just been so long since you've seen his impact in what you're doing. Maybe you feel like he doesn't care. Maybe you feel like you're not a priority to him. You see, the turning points are coming and going, but we can't see to find where Jesus is in it. You hear this in Martha's response when Jesus shows up. It says, so when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, this is verse 20. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. If you had been here. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Maybe you've been in a place like that before. Like the situation you're going through, you could relate to that. Right? I mean, it's very understandable. Martha's sitting there and she's saying, Jesus, if only you had come a day sooner. If only you would have made it here a little bit better, my brother might still be alive, because I know you're someone who can do something about this. If only you had showed up. I think those are very real and authentic feelings that Martha is showing there. Maybe you've felt that before. God, if you would have just shown up in my situation a little bit earlier. God, if you would just show up right now, things might change. I think a lot of times our first response, like we talked about earlier, is just to avoid the problem altogether. If we can just avoid it, not talk about it, not deal with it, it's like it doesn't even exist. We can avoid the hurt, avoid the pain, avoid the difficulty. Maybe you've even begun getting angry with God about it, blaming God for it, whatever the situation is that you're dealing with. But I love what Martha says next, because she doesn't stop saying, if only you had been here. She also says, but even now I believe you can do something about it. I think we need to get to the place where Martha is, where we can say both things and mean them. There's nothing wrong with saying, God, if you would have shown up, if you would have just done something, I might not have the pain, I might not have the hurt, I might not have the difficulty I have right now, but also be able to say, I'm still hopeful, even now, that you might do something about it. Students, do you believe that he can move in your situation right now and do something about it? The story continues. It says, now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet saying, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. I want you to see, first it was Martha, Mary stayed back, but now Mary sees Jesus. And she's saying, if you would have just been here, this might not have happened. Where were you, Jesus? Why didn't you show up, Jesus? We sent word to you 4 days ago. It would have only been about a day of travel. You should have been able to be here and do something and show up. Isn't that what you do? It says, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. And it says, Jesus wept. So many times that scripture is used as it's the shortest verse in the Bible. It's a scripture that shows Jesus has emotion. Jesus wept. But when I read this, I try and picture what would I be doing in that situation? What was Jesus seeing? What was Jesus feeling? He already talked to Martha. Martha saying, if you were only here. And then Mary comes. And Mary saying, Jesus, if you were only here. And he's looking around. And he sees all of their Jewish friends. And they're all weeping and crying. And Jesus says, where is he? And he's seeing Lazarus dead in front of him. And his human response in that moment is to weep as well, to grieve with them, to hurt with them. He felt that pain too. So the Jews said, how he loved them. But some of them said, could he not also have opened the eyes of the blind men, have kept this man from dying? Jesus was at one of his turning point moments. Like I said, this is one of the only times we see in all of the scriptures that it's saying this was a close friend of Jesus, this family. He had built a relationship with them. And he's seeing the people that he's closest to in this moment hurting and in pain, and his response is to feel that pain alongside them. I believe Jesus wept because no one hates death more than Jesus. I believe Jesus wept because he understands what it feels like to lose someone that you love. I believe Jesus wept because he knows what it is to be hurt. He knows what it is to be abused. He knows what it is to be betrayed. He knows what it feels like to not know what's coming next. He knows the things that you go through, and he knows how you feel. And when Jesus is in those moments, he weeps. I don't think anyone understands you more than Jesus does. Maybe you've never thought about it. Maybe you thought he's so distant. He lived 2,000 years ago. There's no way he could understand what's going on with me. But when I see this, I see a Jesus who understands it. And I think Jesus weeps not because he can't change Lazarus' situation and not because he can't change your situation, because he can do it in the blink of the eye and a snap of the finger. I think he weeps because he knows that it's going to be better for you in the long run, that it's going to produce something inside of you going through these moments that's going to be the best for you, and he also knows it's going to hurt. And knowing that it's best for you, he's going to send you through it. And he knows it's going to hurt. He knows there's going to be pain, and I feel like that grieves him too. Students, sometimes God knows you won't grow through it if you don't go through it. God knows you won't grow through it unless you actually go through it. And that's really easy to say and be a point up on a stage and a screen, and it's really hard to live out. Because it hurts, and there's pain, and there's grieving, and there's loss, and there's confusion, and those fear, and all of those things are very real, and Jesus isn't asking us to fake it. He isn't asking us to put on a mask and just act like everything's okay. He knows it's going to hurt you, and that grieves him. Now, I don't know what your situation that you walked in here today with. I don't know what the turning point in your life right now that is, troubling you the most. Maybe you made it through this, and you made it through this, but now you're right here, and you're just like, God, I don't know, you're going to have to show up and do something. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this one. Most of you know my wife and I have been in the adoption process for the last couple of years, and it's been 3 years at this point, and we were expecting a baby boy last November, and I took some time off, and maybe you know why, maybe you don't, but in the end of November, when that baby boy was born, that mom decided to parent him. And so for us, all the things that we hoped for and all the things that we dreamed for, we had to grieve instead. We had to grieve the baby clothes that he never wore, and we had to grieve the crib that he never sat in. And students, I want you to know this, not because for you to have some type of emotional response. I want you to know that I feel the hurt too. I feel the pain too. Just because I'm up on stage doesn't mean I'm avoiding all the turning points in life. And I don't have all the answers. I don't know why. I wish I had wise words that would make your situations and my situation better, but I don't have that. But what I do know is God is not indifferent. It's not that he doesn't care. He cares so much. He is not distant in a way. I don't know what your turning point situation is, students. But I know that he cares. I love what Jesus says next. John chapter 11, verse 41. It says, so they took away the stone. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me. Students, say that with me. I knew that you always hear me. But I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. And when he said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The man who had died came out. His hands and feet were bound with linen strips, his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to him, unbind him and let him go. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. Students, I don't want you to miss this. In the midst of Jesus' turning point, in the midst of the difficult things that was going around him, when he's staring at the dead body of one of his closest friends, Jesus turned to God. He says, I know you always hear me. You are not distant. You are not far away. You are not uncaring. I know you always hear me. Students, in the midst of our turning points, we can turn to God because he always hears us. He always hears you. And maybe you're like Mary and Martha, and you're like, God, I don't know. I've been reaching out. I've sent word to you. I've been praying that you might show up. And nothing's happened. And I'm still waiting. And I'm still hoping. And I don't know what happens next. And students, I don't have magical words for you, but what I believe, just like in this situation, Jesus is grieving and he's weeping because he knows something's going to be produced in you through it, but he knows it's going to hurt to get there. And he wishes it wasn't that way. I don't know the hurt that you've experienced, the pain that you've experienced, but I know it's not wasted. that there is a purpose in the pain, that God is producing something in you, just like with working out. He's producing something in you for, as James says, to be perfect, complete one day. And like I said, that's really easy to say and really hard to do. It's not wasted. Your pain isn't wasted. Your experiences aren't wasted. God isn't asking you to wear a mask and act like it didn't happen. And I don't, like I said, I don't have the magic words. I don't know the reason that you're going through the specific thing that you're going through. Maybe just like in this story, it's not even for you. God is going to use your pain, your situation, your hurt to do something in someone else's life. Maybe the purpose of your pain is so that others might believe because of the way you've walked through what you're going through. That we would run to God and not from him. I believe God will use that. Students, I believe he will. And just like Lazarus might have laid dead for 4 days, but his story wasn't over, students. And maybe you're sitting right here and you don't know what's next. But Jesus said, hey, I am the resurrection and life. Not only can I do something for you now, but I can do something for you forever, because there's going to be a day way down the road that you're going to see me face to face. And I'm going to say, well done, my faithful servant. He is going to call you son. He is going to call you daughter. And we might never get the reasons of why we're going through the things that we're going through in this life. But I know it's not wasted. There is a purpose. And sometimes, students, you have to go through it to grow through it. Pray with me.